Hello, all you weirdos. Jim here. And now that we are done with the really bad Gothamore, we can finally get back to the regular Catwoman book doing Catwoman things, right? Well, in a book where the regular is having a cat deliver street flavors of ramen through the vents of a prison, you really never know what you are going to get. Thankfully, Teenie Howard rarely disappoints when it comes to writing laugh out loud stories, and Catwoman number 59 is no exception to that rule. Let's get into it.
You are all weirdos.
Weird science is the revolution. Weird science is the revolution.
Catwoman number 59 is written by Teenie Howard with art by Stefano Raffaele. So, what does Teenie have cooked up for readers after the ridiculously awful Gothamore? Well, we get a classic callback costume mixed with something that pretty much ruins the character, all rolled up into an eye-rolling, means-nothing caper that somehow is played off as the most important thing ever. It really is pure Teenie Howard madness. Now, the issue starts off with a cold open that is action-packed and does give some recap of recent events, including the Gothamore. Now, as an aside, Teenie Howard was involved in the Gothamore. She was co-writer. How could she end up messing things up when she's trying to recap her own character that she wrote in that tie-in event? I don't get it. And then it gets even crazier when we have what is an old lady granting crazy powers, of course, cat-based, as we'll get to in a little bit, even though at the point when this should have been happening, you had tons of people around. You even had Amanda Waller, the government, swoop in to try to see what was going on with this meteorite. But instead, it's an old lady talking gibberish to grant Selena Kyle powers. I don't get it, but you do end up getting some recap. So if you haven't read Catwoman yet, and somehow you've decided that this is the time to start, you probably can jump in and get up to speed pretty quickly. Now, you can get up to speed pretty quickly because if you have been reading Catwoman since Teenie Howard took over, it's kind of a punch in the face reminder of how bad things have been, because we're doing this and starting off a new status quo by Teenie Howard trying to wrap up things. She's going to tie up some loose ends. And really, the only loose end that she can figure out to tie up is to return Duchess the cat to her rightful owner. Yep, no more vent ramen for her as Catwoman tries to return the feline to her rightful owner, Valmont's ex-lover, Paola Molina, a woman known as Our Lady of the Sword. Now, if that's the only thing that Teenie Howard thinks that needs to be wrapped up, somebody needs to let her know that Catwoman is still a fugitive from the law, wanted for murder, was in jail, actually instituted a prison break of Metas, then gathered them up to cause so much problems and committing crimes against the rich of Gotham. There's a lot of things that probably need to be tied up before you get to Duchess. Duchess is a little down the road there, a little, down the whole scroll of nonsense that should be tied up. And then at the end, you find out that it really doesn't matter anyway. So here we go. Like I said, there is some recap. And then when we get to things, I just want to say, I told you so. And the problem is, I love saying I told you so. But when I have to say it in a way that it shows that I'm on the same wavelength of Teenie Howard, it scares the crap out of me. Because I did make a joke during our podcast review of Scorched Earth, the Gotham War finale, that Catwoman would 100% get powers from that Vandal Savage meteorite, and even went so far as to make a joke that it'll be something stupid like giving her 9 lives. Well, here we are. It was so stupid that it happened. And it's getting to the point where I'm starting to think DC has been running a monthly contest of who could come up with the worst ideas for Catwoman. And unfortunately, Teenie Howard keeps winning. I hate to say it, but it does feel a bit like a Marvel thing, this whole powers deal. And it does not elevate the character at all. It actually ends up showing that there is a writer being paid to give us stories of our favorite character who has no clue what makes the character great in the first place. I already mentioned it, but with her new power, which involves cat scratch marks on Selina's back, filling in as each of these 9 lives are spent. Well, what are you going to do with it? That's a pretty crazy power. It's kind of immortality. At one point, Aiko says it's like extra doses of immortality that made me giggle because that just, does Teenie Howard understand what immortal means? But she ends up having 9 lives. So what is she going to do? I mean, there's probably a list of a lot of different things that she could end up doing with this kind of immortality. And what she ends up doing is deciding to return a cat to its owner. Well, that's already laughable. The crazy, serious dialogue, the over-the-top dialogue that Selina, Paola, it makes it feel like a parody more than a serious story, as if this stupid story means anything, but they're playing it off as it means everything. Now, again, since I'm on this wavelength, since I'm on this whole play and I could tune into Teenie Howard, I'm going to almost guarantee, whatever, I'm going to guarantee it. By the end of this arc, by the end of this story, with 1 live left, somehow Selina will be able to bargain with that old lady and she'll be able to get Valmont back. Valmont will be brought back from the dead with this 9 lives power being transferred to him. And then she's kind of off the hook for the murder, all that stuff. And she'll get her lover back because we all want that, right? No, we don't. And that's why I know it will happen. And by the end of this issue, any of this matters, which is hilarious because Selina spent 2 lives doing something as trivial as returning a cat to its owner, and also ends up with the idea where she's not even good enough to avoid losing 2 lives suddenly. And I get that Teenie is trying to show that with these 9 lives power, Selina might be a bit more bold, daring, and sloppy, but that just proves once again, she never really got the character in the first place. This is just bad. The art's decent, though, throughout the chapter or issue, but the script ends up being a great example of pretty much unintentional humor. It's hilarious, but as has been the case for a while now, I am laughing at one of my favorite characters, not with her, and I don't like doing that. So in conclusion, Catwoman number 59 answers the question of what happened to Selina at the end of the Gotham War, and the answer is downright hilarious. Teenie Howard seems intent on proving she has no clue what makes Catwoman a great character, and I don't think any 9 lives power will be enough to save Selina or any of her fans, including me. Because of all that, I'm giving this a 2.5 out of 10. And I'll tell you right now, I think the art's probably a 4. That's how bad this is. It's so bad. Now, let me know what you think in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. And if reviewing this garbage issue one time isn't enough, I'll also be reviewing it again this week on our weekly DC Comics podcast. So check that out. I'll be talking about it with my man Eric. It comes out every Sunday. But if you want to get early access, you can check out our Patreon at patreon.com/weirdscience, where you can help us out for everything we do and also get a ton of exclusive content as well. So with all that, please let me know what you think of Catwoman number 59, Teenie Howard in general, Catwoman, all this power nonsense, and I will see you all later.
You are all weirdos.
Weird science is the revolution. Weird science is the revolution.